Hey everyone, this video is going to be about my latest package that arrived with my newest additions to my collection. First, I'm Dave Dustin. I'm a comic collector historian from Toronto, Canada, and I'm making these videos documenting some of the rarest books that are on the planet. And I just had this package here arrive. I've already gotten into it. I'm going to show you 4 comics you've never seen before and some anti-comics propaganda stuff. All these books are of course from like the 40s and 50s from the United Kingdom area. And we'll just get right into it. So first of all, we're going to start off with Streamline Comics. So I got these not too long ago. Artwork by Dennis Gifford. This is 1947. So here's Streamline Comics number 1. And it's a 4-part series. There's number 4. Number 1 and 4 are the most common. I've seen a bunch of copies go for sale. The person I bought these from had other multiple copies they sold before the ones I got, and after the ones I got, they kept selling them. And then there's number 2. Number 2, it's a little more rare than number 1 and 4, but there's still a bunch out there. Nobody seems to have a number 3. It's either 1, 2, or 4. You can't find a number 3 anywhere. Even online, you can read the stories inside. People have posted the contents, but there is no number 3 that you can find online. Well, that is until now. Just arriving, this package, Streamline Comics number 3. There you go, some more Dennis Gifford artwork from 1947. So this is cool. So I can now read number 1 to 4 in order, which a lot of people have not been able to do. I might be the only one in these current times that's alive right now that's going to be able to read number 3, number like 1 to 4 all throughout, because most people don't have number 3. You can't find this number 3 anywhere. There you go inside, Streamline number 3 by Dennis Gifford. And even go further. There's other stories such as this, The Search for the Secret City. It's another 4-part of the serial where, like I said, you can't find number 3. Everyone only has number 1, 2, and 4, but I just had this arrive, Streamline Comics number 3. Only copy currently known to exist. All these books are the only copies currently known to exist. That doesn't mean there's the only ones. There might be more, but as of right now, nobody knows of any more copies of these. Next book, Flashbang Comics Adventure. This is really awesome. So this is all original UK artwork. This is from, of course, Cartoon Arts Productions. And you go through, and it has artwork and characters from their Super Duper comics. There you go. Bert Steele. It has one of the other characters. There you go, some Power Man, Dennis Malcolm Reader artwork. I love his artwork. He does all this American superhero type stuff. Power Man. So, Flashbang Comics Adventure. That is really awesome. All original UK artwork. This is from 1948. So one shot that came out back then. Another extremely rare book. Here's another one by Cartoon Arts. Gene Autry Comics number 16. No photos of this can be found anywhere. I have a few of the series, the Gene Autry comics. Here's another one, never seen before. New Mystery Magazine. This isn't even listed as existing on any database anywhere. There's no mention of this on the internet. There's no photos. So extremely rare. Also cartoon art. Now this is very similar to other ones I found. You see at the front of this comic, adult reading not for sale to juveniles. So that's really crazy. I've only ever seen that on one other comic. Here's another one that they published, True Love Confessions. This one has a hidden horror comic where they put a false back cover on. So here we have adult reading not for sale to juveniles. Here they have adult reading not for sale to juveniles, new, different, daring. So these were both probably late 1954, maybe early 1955. I have dated comics from Cartoon Arts up to February 1955. So a couple of their Western series. So it may have been after the Comics Code came out in the US, or it might have been late 1954. This is cool. This is New Mystery Magazine. The masthead is what really got me, because I've seen this before. I have a couple other comics. So you can see this. This is Spellbound. It says Spellbound Magazine on the cover, but it's actually just called Spellbound in the indicia. This is not an actual comic inside. It is 3 remaindered American comics. So it has The Unseen number 6, Real Life Comics 59, Dogface Dooley number 4 are inside. Full American color comics from September 1952. They were bound together with this cover put on. This The Unusual. This is like a text story in one of the books. I'm not sure if all of the Spellbound copies had the same 3 American remainders, because this is the only one currently known to exist. No one else has ever seen a copy of this book before other than this one that I have here. So the other Spellbounds, they might have a different assortment of American remainder comics, or it might be the same 3. But you can see the masthead is very similar. New Mystery Magazine, Spellbound Magazine. So there was an actual Spellbound magazine in edition, not just Spellbound, Spellbound Magazine. And you can see it's got the same masthead. Now this was also 1954, possibly early 55, but probably 1954. It has a 1954 story in it. It's black and white reprints of American comics, mostly all horror comics. Nightmare is reprinted there, a full book, and Ghost Comics, some other stuff. So then this new mystery, this one's kind of strange though, because it has a story from 1954 from Nightmare Comics, a horror story, but it also has a mixture of late 1940s comics and different genres like war and crime and stuff mixed in from the late 40s, and Planet Comics from 1948, 1949. But then it also has a 1954 story in there. So it came out in at least 1954. And what is also really strange is it says right on some of the pages, Spellbound number 3, section 3, and then also had a Spellbound number 3, section 2. So this was slated to be titled Spellbound also. So like the first Spellbound I showed you, that was not Spellbound Magazine. That was just Spellbound. That was American Remainders. But these are actual Spellbound. So this is Spellbound number 1. It's got no number. And this was slated for number 3. So there might be a Spellbound number 2 out there somewhere. Just nobody's ever found it yet. But because the title was changed on this one to New Mystery Magazine, it might not be called Spellbound Magazine number 2. It might be something entirely different, titled something Magazine, but they just changed it from Spellbound. But it should have that same masthead. So I'm out looking now for a Spellbound number 2. Because apparently one exists, because this is the artwork from Spellbound number 3. Then I got some anti-comics propaganda here. So this came from the National Union of Teachers, the NUT, N-U-T, National Union of Teachers, Wednesday, April 8th, 1953, annual conference. You can see there's some markings there where whoever owned this booklet made notes. So this is really cool. So the National Union of Teachers didn't really put out much anti-comics propaganda. There really wasn't much in the UK in general at all. But they are well known for these images you can find online. So if you look at this here, they're looking at boards with cut off covers, and there's also interiors from American and British horror comics. And here's a little note about it. Parliament secretaries look at horror comics. November 13th, 1954, London, England. D.F. Vosper, British Parliamentary Undersecretary to the Ministry of Education, and Sir Hugh Lucas Tooth, Undersecretary to the British Home Office, are viewing a selection of horror comics on display at the National Union of Teachers office in London. A determined drive is underway to eliminate such productions from the newsstands. Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill is interested in the drive and has requested that he be given some of the horror productions for his display. And you see there's a lot of pictures online. There's that one there. You see him holding a Frankenstein in a Haunt of Fear. There's a Frankenstein there. This is an American Haunt of Fear. Tell by the 10-cent price, but they also publish it in the British market for $1. The stories from inside a book on another board. There you go. Planet Comics is zoomed in on there. Here's someone from the National Union of Teachers looking at a display. So what I think this display is there's an anti-comics booklet called Lure of the Comics that I have here. that was published by the Women's Day Committee. There's Lure of the Comics. So if you look on the back of this, it talks about the exhibition. It says here, the striking exhibition illustrating the conditions which give rise to the appetite for comics and the probable effects of such comics on children is now available for hire. 6 screens, each measuring 5 foot by 4 foot, with material on both sides, provided with legs for freestanding. Terms, 3GNS per week plus transport charges. Apply. Exhibition manager, IWD 174 Uxbridge Road, London, W12. So I think that these photos that are commonly found online from the National Union of Teachers, I think they rented the exhibition that is mentioned here on the back of Lure of the Comics. And that's what they're known for. I've never seen before any anti-comics propaganda at all by them. It's up here in Canada, it's kind of like we have a CUPE up here for teachers and education assistants and that, the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Well, this is the British version. And here's a pin I have. So there's their logo, National Union of Teachers. It looks like a hand. There's an old enamel pin I have from the 50s or 60s to go with this. And on the back of this, you look there, it talks about harmful toys and literature, which this has to be talking about American comics and more specifically American horror comics. So it states, harmful toys and literature, Mr. J.A. Pitcher for the executive to move, Miss A.P. Cook for the executive to second. Item 57. This conference views with concern the harmful effects of certain types of films and literature on the moral and spiritual development of young people. It therefore calls on parents to exercise greater control over what their children see and read in their leisure hours, and to cooperate with teachers in their endeavor to promote the right enjoyment and proper appreciation of good reading and visual material. Being of the opinion that the official censorship of literature is alien to the British idea of freedom, it further calls on all producers, publishers, distributors, and agents to improve the quality of literature and films available to young persons. So, totally a swipe at American comics, especially the horror comics. This came out in April 1953. So that's real neat to have. Another anti-comic propaganda piece from my collection. And then finally, and all this stuff too, this was all collected by a friend of mine in London, England area. And it was actually, all these items are from different sellers, and he collected them all up and sent them in one package for me. It saved me a small fortune on shipping charges. And so here's the final item. There wasn't much in the mainstream media about comics, but there were a couple articles in Picture Post. So this Picture Post is May 17th, 1952. And it was the first time in mass media that anything was mentioned about comic books. And you can see that they have this article here, should U.S. comics be banned? Whole page article, Picture Post. And then there's a couple more pages where you have shots of comic interiors, especially highlighting the horror comics and all American comics, really. And then there was only one other instance after this. I actually already had this one. I meant to include this when I made the video on the history of the comics campaign, the British comics campaign. This is another Picture Post. This one is November 20th, 1954. So this is right near the end when the Comics Code was beginning in the United States. This issue came out. I already had this issue. And this one has a couple articles also. It's really neat. You know, horror comics, is this the end? Well, yes it was. And then you see there's Tales from the Crypt #2 at the top. That comic right there. Then the second picture, there's the story The Orphan from, it was reprinted in The Haunt of Fear in the UK. It's one of my favorite stories. Whole big article all about comics, especially horror comics. And there's a whole second article here, The Cult of Violence Persists. So that's really neat. Got some new items for my collection and can't wait to get in them and start reading them. Wait, till next time, take care. Cheers.